All
We did
right,
it.
everybody. Hello, hello, and welcome, welcome. I'm Chef Jesse with Sacred Kitchen. We're bringing delicious, amazing food from all over the world, from my kitchen into your dining room. And I am here. I'm super excited to be here today with my guest chef, homie, Ann Apra, who is calling in from exotic and sunny Los Angeles, California. We
Thank
have
you.
super special, super rapid fire little guest bonus lesson today. Chef, what are we doing? What are we making? Talk to me.
Well, today I thought we would put a cap on our class that's going to be happening on Friday. We're making savory. I thought, why don't we do a sweet so that it can be ready in advance for our class? We're going to make a rustic pear tart. Easy, simple, classic with a twist because we don't want to work that hard. We're going to use pre-made pastry. Do not tell the other chefs.
All right. So we've got a rustic pear tart happening. We're going to do a little bit of creme fraiche. That's kind of our little fancy pants twist today. And Chef Ann is going to be walking us on Friday through some homemade gnocchi and a few other things from her Italian heritage. And we are super excited about that. So talk to me about what's going on first here, Chef. What are we doing first?
Well, I figured, so I've got my oven already preheated to a 385 degree. I already pre-cut my pears and I put them in a little acidulated water, and that's water with a little bit of lemon juice in it. And that is to make sure that we don't have browning, because we want a pretty tart. So all I'm doing is I'm draining it, and now I have them ready because I worked a little bit ahead of time, Chef Jesse, and I pre-made my tart shells, which we're going to talk about in a second. But I figured I'd bring them out, and we're gonna walk you through everything else, folks. But if you want to cheat, there
we got
are
a little
wonderful
made for TV magic happening for everybody at home here. Chef Ann has got her stuff prepared, and this is so that you can see what it looks like in our our quick. Right now, I'm just cutting up a pear. This is just for two, and one pear or two. What do you think for me?
Let's do two. How big are your pastry sizes? Are they
similar to
mine in that they're personal? Perfect.
They're 5 by 5 squares.
Perfect. I think that two should be more than enough. This is one pear for my smaller sheets. The sheets I rolled out with a little bit of flour, which I'll demonstrate in a minute. And then I've already pre-cut my it's only one pear, so I'm just going to do about half of my ingredients, which is some lovely cane sugar and some lovely brown sugar, of which I'm just going to break up a tiny bit. And then we've got some measured out allspice with a pinch of salt and some cinnamon, which is wonderful. And I'm going to add to that some fresh nutmeg. Now, if you know, many people have wonderful spice cabinets. If you're able to have fresh nutmeg on hand, please use it anytime you can. I think it's so much better. And for this recipe, you need basically about 3/4 of one wonderful nutmeg seed. And this, of course, is a microplane, which I'm using to zest. Easy breezy. Away
a little allspice, a little nutmeg, a little cinnamon, and a couple dollops of both brown and white sugar and some lemon juice. That's what we're working with here, yeah?
That's pretty much it. And what I did was I mixed everything up together. And I'm just using this little miniature whisk, which is such a wonderful tool in the kitchen. If you have
I'm doing something totally different. I'm just mixing it all in with my pears. Did I ruin it?
No, you're perfect. I'm just doing mine ahead of time because my brown sugar was, even though I stored it properly, it had a lot of bumps in it. So I'm just using a whisk to blend all the spices and the brown sugar together. I've already added my regular sugar into the pears, and boom, in it goes. Did you demonstrate how easy it is to cut a pear, Chef Jesse? Isn't it so easy?
No, I didn't. I just
do it the right way.
paid for it.
Oh, I love it. Well, I'm going to show it later if we have time. It's pretty easy. These are Bosc pears, which I love Bosc pears. Um, they're just so yummy and buttery, and they're very forgiving. This recipe, you don't necessarily have to have very overripe pears, which is great because you're going to be baking them.
Yeah, I actually intentionally used more, not that ripe pears. I used kind of more.
Yeah, because you want them to kind of hold up, and they look so pretty in the rustic tart.
Right, and we talked about this a little bit earlier too, but I'm gonna just hit just a tiny little bit of salt to just kind of bring all the flavors out, which is a very, very traditional thing in baking, you know, and sweet making, baking and sweet making. I like that, it rhymes.
I like that. That's awesome.
Like this. Like always, you want to taste, make sure it tastes good. If it tastes good on this end, it's going to taste good when it comes out of the oven.
Gorgeous. Beautiful. Now, for the sake of the magic of time, Chef, I have already prepared my pastry. So all I did was I rolled it out with a little bit of flour and my little mini roller. Okay. And I used my very favorite little ravioli roller, and I basically cut around the edges to create a border. And then I did a docking method, which means I just used a nice fork and I poked a lot of holes in it. That's going to stop the puff pastry from making lots of bubbles, because we don't want to ruin that gorgeous lamination.
Let me just slow you down here, because I'm doing this right now. So I'm rolling this out. I'm rolling this little square of puff pastry out. Is that right? That's my first step.
Beautiful. Perfect.
So for those of you who are, you know, who are from the MacGyver school of cooking, a mason jar is the totally acceptable substitute when needed for a rolling pin. And then I'm going to put this on my parchment paper. And what do I do next? I don't have one of those cute little ravioli madus. What do I do next?
Okay, you can use the point of a sharp knife, just like this. And you're just going to cut along the edges to make a frame of your puff pastry. And you don't want to cut all the way through it. You don't want to break through that lovely lamination layer. You're just going to want to kind of create a frame so that as it bakes, the puff pastry, because of that lamination that's happening with all the butter that's inside of it, it's going to create, and the steam will create this lovely frame around it. And all I'm doing is I'm just going to roll this onto these, and I'm going to pop this in the oven because I want to get it started, but then I'll jump back and definitely come back and hit some of these other.
You're going to walk me through this painful process that I'm doing.
I know. I'm so sorry. I'm trying to do the magic.
What are you doing now? You have an egg. You have an egg. You made an egg wash.
I did. It's just one beautiful organic egg. I broke it into a little bowl. I'm giving it a little whisk. I didn't even add water, although you certainly can.
All right.
And I'm just lightly brushing along the edges of the frame, because that is going to just give that lovely brownness that's going to be happening. So it'll be very pretty and shiny and glossy. Plus, I do like to add a little decadent addition to my tartlets for presentation. And I like to add a little turbinado sugar, which this is a sugar that's been pre-processed, so it doesn't have as much as, say, a refined white sugar. It has a little more molasses left in it, so it's got a little more flavor profile. Plus, it's a little harder and pretty, and I think it just makes a really lovely finish for presentation purposes for a special dinner for your dessert. Okay, and then I think I'm going to add just a pinch more of this orange zest, because I love it. And I already have my apples coated, so I don't need to add more. But if you follow the recipe, this would be the point where you'd sprinkle on maybe a little more decadent sugar, allspice, cinnamon, etc. All right, in it goes to my preheated 385 oven. I'm going to set a timer for 15 minutes, and I'm going to look at it.
Okay.
I love setting timers. I'm sure you do too, right, Chef? Especially when you have a lot going on.
It has saved me far too many times for me to ignore. So we're going to slow down here, and we're going to take this one step at a time. and we're going to
Okay.
walk through the whole process. So the first
You
part of
got
the
it.
process was I cut a pear into elegant little slivers like this. I tossed it with equal parts white sugar and brown sugar, cinnamon, allspice, and a bit of nutmeg with some lemon zest, lemon, and just a tiny bit of salt. And this is going to be my pear tart filling. Next, I rolled out my my puff pastry, and now I am going to, in lieu of a ravioli docker, I'm just going to cut kind of I'm going to score it like I'm making the frame of a picture, because my pears are going to
Exactly.
be the painting and this little bit of puff pastry. Now, you could make puff pastry if you wanted, but that's a whole different lesson by somebody who isn't named me. And now what I'm going to do is I've got a little bit of water and a little bit of egg. I'm going to add just a tiny bit of water. This is my egg wash. And now, do I lay the pears down first, or do I do the egg wash first, or does it not matter?
It doesn't matter, but definitely make sure, chef, that you dock it with just the edge of a fork, and you just want to dock it, meaning you're just
Right.
basically
So
dragging,
that is the piece
tucking a
that I
fork.
forgot. And why do we do this little hole making business?
That's to help the steam release from the laminated layers of butter and dough and butter and dough. Puff pastry takes so long to make, and my hat's off to whomever actually makes it. But this
Now,
little trick, the
do I
docking,
just dock inside the picture or on the frame too?
just outside the just inside of the picture. You want to leave the frame as is because that's going to steam up and rise and actually be more raised. So that will make like a picture frame
Okay, good.
around your
Then I'm just kind of
beautiful tart.
layering these pears in. Is that the basic idea?
That's exactly right. And you can lay the flat side, the wide side out towards the center or to the edges. So that way, when it starts collapsing on each other, it will wrap around the flat edge. So if you can see here, um, there we go. I put the flat edge on the outside, and then I just kind of shingle them. It's called shingling. So you want to
Mhm.
just shingle them, and you can make them as fat and full of the pears or as sparse. It is to taste. It is fun. Again, your kitchen, your rules. You can
Mhm.
do to taste. Some people don't like a lot of fruit. They'd rather have the pastry. I get it. I like to have more savory than sweet. That's more my passion. But that's why I love this tart
Did you
recipe is
ever,
because
speaking of which, could you pair this with, see what I did there? Could you pair this
ah
with like blue cheese or something like that?
ooh, I would add that after the fact because it in the oven it's going to get really oozy. Um,
Right, but you could like garnish with a little bit of blue cheese and balsamic, right? I mean, that's something
oh
I've done with
yes.
this dish
Oh
before.
my goodness. And maybe a little bit of chopped rosemary. Can you just smell that aromatic going? Wow.
So you can see I've got this sort of like interesting little shingle situation going.
Beautiful.
I'm gonna stack these guys to the heavens because Ann
Do
told
it.
me I could.
You
And then
could. It's your kitchen, your rules.
now now my kitchen, my rules. I don't have a pastry brush handy. Can I use a spoon for this egg? What's the MacGyver technique?
Well, you know what? I think the easiest way, because the spoon may get too much, as long as you have clean hands and we'll wash them after for cross contamination purposes, you could literally dip a couple of fingers into the pastry and
Good,
just run it
good
around
idea.
it.
Good
You know, my
idea.
hands are my favorite kitchen tool. I just love it.
Awesome.
All right. Now, while you're doing that, chef, I had made for I did a little cocktail party, and I had made a safe one, of course, a virtual one. I made this lovely syrup, which is basically honey and gosh, what else did I have in it? Honey, some lemon, and a little bit of water. So this is kind of like a syrup. I made it like a simple syrup, which is half water, half half sugar, and then I added honey instead of a lot of sugar because I wanted it more natural. this one, I thought I had it sitting around the house. So I went ahead and added it to my tart here. This will be the second one. So the
Cool.
other one has been in, it's been in
And
for 5 minutes.
I don't have turbinado sugar, so I'm just gonna do kind of a dusting of my white sugar, which is this
Perfect.
cane sugar, and I'm doing a pretty generous topping, and that's actually gonna be really nice because it's gonna kind of caramelize and get crusty on top. And that
Yes,
beautiful, beautiful, beautiful
I
thing.
love it.
And I'm gonna pop this in the oven. So really what we wanted to show was just a very, very simple way to have a really elegant dessert. And this is like little more than pears, some spices, a little bit of acid, and puff pastry that can be bought at your local grocery store. And if you don't want it because you want to do something gluten-free, then it's easy to just simply put these in a small dish and bake them and have them come out delicious as well. So
Look at that.
now we have one other little thing working. What do we got there, Chef? Is that the finish? Or that's
Oh, I was just showing the finish with a little bit of the glossiness and the turbinado sugar. It's going in. I'm just taking a virtual note of my timer because it's always good to know that.
great. And
Chef,
now
do we have a minute?
we're gonna move on to the creme fraiche, right?
Yeah, let's do it. Did you want to demonstrate how to cut a pear easily and quickly? That's something that we
Sure,
could
let's
show.
why don't you do that, Chef, while we're waiting for our goodies to get going here. Chef,
I think that's lovely. So for cutting a pear, any kind of pear, this is of course a boss. You can use the Anjou or whatever you love. You can cut it in half and scoop out the center of the seeds or cut them out. But I find the easiest way, which is similar to how I cut an apple, I just cut along the outside of where I see the core to be. And this, of course, is for snacking later. And then I just put them on the flat side. And I just cut about a 1/4 inch, an 1/8 of an inch, whatever you need. And then you have these beautiful pieces of pear. And the ones that are smaller that don't fit perhaps in your tart. Some of the tart shells, by the way, are large, those sheets, because you can get them puff pastry. So maybe you want to do a large one. Some of these smaller pieces are perfect to kind of fit in. Otherwise, they're great for snacking. And that's it. And then I would put this in the acidulated water with a little bit of lemon juice in it so that they don't go brown. Boom. Easy breezy cover girl.
nice, beautiful.
Yeah.
So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna make a creme fraiche. So I've got a little pint jug of some of my favorite organic cream from Strauss. These are my people in the North Bay. They do amazing, beautiful stuff in the Sonoma area. And I've got a little bit of pre-fermented goodness. So Anne, why don't you tell us what you got going on over there?
All right. Well, I wanted to have this ready so you could be the before and I'll do the after. I did the same thing. I put about a cup of a heavy cream. This is full dairy. So this is, and you can you certainly use a kefir or another kind of vegan-based yogurt or a cream or whatnot. But this is full-fat cream, heavy cream, ultra-pasteurized, the fattest you can get, the best quality you can get, of course. And then I put in about a tablespoon of some wonderful Greek yogurt, full fat on that. And then I put it inside of this, in this container. And then I gave it a good shake. And I set it out on my counter so that it could kind of be in room temperature where some warmth was happening. And this sat overnight for 24 hours. This was probably ready at about 10 or 12 hours. So you don't have to necessarily be beholden upon a whole hour of it, or rather a whole day for it to sit. But after it was done, I gave it a good stir with this long-handled spoon. And then I put it into my refrigerator and let it chill for 24 hours before I used it, just because I wanted it to be nice and cold when I use it. Yum. And so this is the result.
It's hard for us to see the texture, but can you just kind of give us a basic idea of what the texture is?
Sure. It's a lot thicker and creamier. It's like sour cream. Creme fraiche is is the more elegant and refined version of sour cream. And I think it pairs beautifully with specialty desserts like our rustic pear tart. So you see, it's not as dense. It's got a little bit of give to it, kind of like a whipped cream. And you can add, if you wanted to, a little pinch of some maple syrup if you wanted to add a little flavor to it. You could add a little pinch of vanilla. You can leave it as is. You can add a little zest on it if you wanted to maybe bring, like we have with our pear tart, maybe I'll put a little pinch of some orange zest because that is what's going to be on my tart. And this will be, instead of having ice cream, I'm going to have a beautiful homemade creme fraiche. And guess what? The rest of this goes back in the fridge. I can use it just like you'd use a sour cream type product for at least 2 weeks, as long as it's tightly sealed and kept in the refrigerator. Very easy,
So
very
I just make sure
inexpensive.
that I'm understanding this properly. I'm putting yogurt inside a cream and then I'm just letting it sit out for 24 hours.
That's right. You're going to let the natural bacteria, if you will, ferment like a buttermilk. You can use buttermilk as well.
Buttermilk,
And
yogurt, kefir, these are all things,
yes,
anything that has live bacterial cultures works really well.
ex-
All I'm gonna do
exactly.
is shake it up. Now, do I leave this covered or
Yes.
uncovered, or does it matter?
I think it's better covered because oftentimes when you leave it in your kitchen, you're cooking. There's other smells. There's other flavors going on.
There it
That's
goes,
perfect. Just
right above my
beautiful.
little oven. And a
Oh,
little reminder, Alexa, remind me tomorrow at this time to put the creme fraiche in the refrigerator.
I love it. Thank you, Alexa. That's great.
3
Now, hopefully
p.m.
on Friday, we'll see how it comes out.
That's a real life thing that just happened.
That's
Yep.
so funny.
Yeah.
Oh, technology.
So so this is, I think this is an interesting place to talk about, about food safety. Like, we're trained to be really food safe, and usually when in doubt, throw it out. But in this case, what we're doing is we're intentionally cultivating a probiotic, a bacteria that's good for our bellies, by leaving dairy out to ferment and make this delicious creme fraiche product, which is, by the way, just absolutely delicious and just so different in subtle ways that I can't quite explain from sort of your store-bought sour cream. Partly because we're using such really high quality cream. I don't know if there's anything you want to add about the fermentation process or anything that makes this okay for people who might be like, I'm worried about that.
Yeah, don't be afraid because it's basically sour cream, but with a way better mouthfeel. It's velvety, it's creamy, it's yummy. Um, Live probiotic bacteria are good for us. There is the probiotic trend that people are finally becoming aware of. A little bit of probiotic, a little bacteria, the good kind, goes a long way for your gut health, for feeling better. It's certainly a better choice to be able to make something in your own kitchen where you know where it's been handled and being kept safe and kept your eye on it and kept refrigerated. I think it's important to be okay with trying new things. And this is a great and easy, inexpensive way to start.
All right. Awesome. Chef, is your tart ready? Do we have that? A few more minutes?
How perfect your timing is. It just beeped for me, letting me know it has 57 seconds, 51 seconds, 50, 49 seconds. Let's take a look at the first one that I brought up. Oh, look how pretty. Okay. I think it could probably use a tiny bit more time if we want to look on this. You can see the pastry is starting to brown beautifully on the outside, but I still see a little bit of doughiness. And you can tell that when you lift it up, there is a little bit of, like the dough is not quite finished yet underneath. Where's my little spatula? Of course, it walked away. I'm going to put it back in for a minute while I look for that. And I'm going to rotate it because, as we know, most of our ovens have a different shelf life and a different kind of calibration. So I'm going to rotate the other one. So it's literally got a second.
That's a really great note. Is that it's a great idea to rotate when you're baking something like this, that you want kind of a finished, elegant set up for whether that's a pie or a cake, or in this case, a tart. You do want to rotate, or just spin your tart around. You can see mine here. It's starting to pop up around the edges, and you can see that beautiful little frame is happening. I definitely need a few more minutes. I'm going to throw this on the top of the oven instead of on the bottom. Yay for toaster ovens in the pandemic.
I love that. And convection is a great way for having that air circulating. That would give you a more crispiness, and it would probably cook a little bit quicker. That would have been a good idea to put it on convection beforehand. Oopsie.
Seth, tell us a little bit about what you are up to these days and how you have adjusted to life in the pandemic.
Our new normal. Well, in the old days, I was a full service caterer. I have my own company. I'm the executive chef of my own company. I come from a long line of cooks and restaurateurs. My grandfather was a cook for the Italian Army. And so we grew up making, like we would feed an army, homemade sausages, homemade gnocchi, homemade ravioli, bagna calda, all these wonderful rustic Piemontese type dishes, which is where the region my family's from, which is basically the mountain part of Tuscany. I think where the best food is. And then when he migrated here to the United States, he settled in San Francisco and San Jose, where he opened up nightclubs and restaurants and all that good stuff. So it was just lovely to be a part of that legacy of the family and carry on these traditions, some of which I'm going to share with you next week. But because of the pandemic, I'm not able to be in people's homes like I love so much. So I'm sharing my passion for cooking and sharing these new or old new techniques and ideas, and gosh, you name it, I'll make it, for these virtual cooking classes, very much like we're doing today. And it's been really fun.
Yeah, and Anne has pivoted very similarly to how I have, and is doing stuff virtually. And we got the chance to work together a while ago, and I was like, oh, this human is perfect and would be lovely to share her magic with the people. So we are making a homemade gluten-free if you want gnocchi out of pumpkin, and we're doing that on Friday with some herb zucchini and a little butter sage pancetta. And you can join us for free. We'd love to have you join us. So thanks so much. Chef, you want to give us one more quick little look or a little take before
a little hack before I pull out the next 2 minutes. Oh, there we go. 1 minute left. So this is a finishing oil. It's a basil oil. Any kind of herb will do, but mostly those bright, fresh ones, especially as the season is starting to wane and we lose a lot of our herbs because the weather gets so much colder. I had a beautiful basil plant that I wanted to harvest. So I blanched about a cup of packed leaves with a little bit of hot water and put it in an ice bath and let them stop cooking, drained them, patted them dry, and then I used a food processor or a blender to add about a cup of really good quality, or a quarter cup of good quality olive oil with a little bit of salt and pepper. And then I strained it really well through a very fine sieve and then added it to a cute little cruet. And this is a finishing oil. Look at the color on that. That is basil oil. You can do it with oregano. You got chives, whatever you've got growing in your garden. It's just a really nice.
Show us that again, Anne. I just got the spotlight up on you. Show it.
There we go. Look at the color on that. Isn't that beautiful?
So that'll be really nice on the pasta and the zucchini that we're going to make on Friday.
Oh, yes, it'll be great on the zucchini. It'll be great on the gnocchi too. All right, that was my.
Let's see.
That was my timer. Let's pray.
Let's see what they're looking like.
Oh, these are so pretty. Oh, look how pretty. Okay, so there we go. We've got some puff around the little framework there. They are beautiful and crisp. Let me lift one up. We want to make sure that the bottom is baked, and you can usually see if I can show it here. It's very hot. I don't know if you can see it there or not, but you basically want to be able to touch it and it talks to you. You don't want it doughy on the bottom, but that looks absolutely gorgeous. I'm going to push it up against my beautiful creme fraiche with some orange zest. And since I have it, maybe I'll add a little drizzle of that syrup that I made. I love Jacques Pepin. He's a wonderful chef back in Julia Child days and before. He gave me a hack that I loved. He just took apricot jam and he put it in a microwave of all things. And he melted it down. You can also do a double boiler situation. And he brushed it on top of his tart to give that glossy, beautiful finish. And that just gives it a little another level of flavor. There's hacks. You don't have to be a French chef to cook like one.
So I've got a question for you. I pulled this out. My edges are looking very, very basically perfect. What do I want my pear to feel like?
Your pear should be wiggly. You should be able to wiggle it. So this was the pear before. Oops, this was the pear before. So it's got a little stiffness there. And then once it's cooked, it should have that nice wiggle. You want to have a nice mouth feel to it. Like that. Perfect.
Mine's looking good.
Wow, that's delicious. So if you want to, if your pastry is starting to brown too much, I also have this on the recipe for like the bigger sheets. You can turn it down to 325 and that will continue to cook your larger pears and not let your beautiful framework burn. But that looks gorgeous, Chef Jessie. Yum.
I think mine needs just a little bit more time because I want my pears kind of swoop. I want them swoop.
Yeah.
But I don't want to burn my frame. So I'm just going to throw a little parchment over. Do you think that'll work?
I think that should be fine. You can use foil, but I think foil kind of, it bounces off the heat, but it also could, it's too difficult to make that frame perfect.
Yeah, I don't need real long here. Well, Chef, I'm gonna just throw this in the oven here for a couple more minutes. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm super duper looking forward to cooking with you on Friday, and I think we're good. Thank you, thank you.
You're so welcome. I can't wait to dig into this. I'll wait till I'm off camera, but I have not one, not two, but
You're
four.
so modest.